Okay, these are my pool games for ORAV IV, which is a draft tournament. If you're wondering about the rules, go watch the draft analysis video. Basically, this is my battle pool. It's a round robin, which means we all fight each other one time, and you have to win at least 2 games to make it through to the main bracket. So 1 or 2 people in each pool are going to get eliminated, depending on how everything matches up. These are all my opponents. We're going to go in order that I fought them, which will be this guy, and then my last game against this guy. Okay, so this is my first matchup for ORAS 4, and these are the teams. My team on the left, my opponent's team on the right. Some things that I had to keep in mind going into this game. My opponent is very hazard weak. Crobat is not solid enough removal into my team. And that's their only removal. It's their only defogger. They have no spin. There's no burn immunity, which makes Will-O-Wisp and Scald very good into this team, and their only fire resist is Rotom Wash, which can get worn down by things like Greninja or Moldbreaker Excadrill, which basically means that Scarf Entei is a really good cleaner into this team. It can even be used as an early game breaker or burn spreader, because its HP doesn't really matter. The mons that I expected going into this game was Mega Gardevoir, Rotom Wash, Crobat, Serperior, Nidoking, and then Cobalion or Dusknoir. I didn't basically anything except for Escavalier. I was kind of expecting to run into, and this was the build I went with. So we have a lead Mental Herb Uxie, which is always faster than Mega Gardevoir on turn 1 because it's Gen 6 Mega Speed. It's very HP invested, good bit of Spit F. It's really bulky. It can take special hits. It can either Toxic, Thunder Wave, Stealth Rock. It can always do whatever it wants to do on turn 1. It's a phenomenal lead here. It's basically its goal is to Stealth Rock and then U-turn out to my threat. Next up I have Excadrill, which has enough speed for random max speed Rotom, which also is like just barely higher than, I think, modest Mega Gardevoir, but don't quote me on that. I played this game a week ago. It's Air Balloon for Nidoking. It has a lot of Spit F, so that it can take Gardevoir hits or Flamethrower from Nidoking. This is like really my only quote-unquote Nidoking answer, unless I was way more Spit F on Uxie, but I was worried about lead Gardevoir. Earthquake hits everything on the team. I'm pretty sure it hits all the relevant guys. Iron Head is good into Crobat for chipping it. I could have ran Rock Slide, but I wanted to be able to hit Mega Gardevoir, which in hindsight Rock Slide was probably better in this matchup, but it doesn't matter that much. I have 2 Rockers on this team to pressure Crobat even harder. And then obviously Rapid Spin because I don't want to deal with Toxic Spikes from Nidoking. I don't want to deal with Stealth Rock. They're both annoying. Next I have Greninja, which is a Black Glasses Breaker in this game. Its main job, it outspeeds max speed Superior. Its job is to hit things with Dark Pulse pretty much. And by things I mean Rotom. It can... Dark Pulse will do 41 to 49 to a max HP Rotom Wash, and Rotom should be Fizz-Def in this game. So Dark Pulse is good for getting chip from my Entei win path. Scald spreads burns, it's always good. I probably could have ran Surf, but like, whatever. Ice Beam will hit Superior if I need it to. What else is on my opponent's team? Low-key forgot. It hits Nidoking, but so does Scald. It's basically just for Superior, and I guess Crobat. U-turn is just a good move. It's pivoting. I can get my opponent in not really much of a vortex because it's just Greninja and Uxie that have pivoting right now on this team. But anyways, its job is to weaken down Rotom Wash. Jellicent is a great Fizdef with Calm Nature pivot, so it can take hits from Mega Gardevoir if it needs to, but mostly it's here because it completely stuffs Cobalion. I don't need to worry about Cobalion with this guy, so I can switch into Cobalion, and then I can get a free Will-O-Wisp on something. Or for later in the game, maybe I can Hex, maybe I can Scald. Bulky Jellicent is just a really good mon. Next up, I have a pretty specially bulky Cleric Altaria set with Ice Beam for mons like Nidoking and Crobat, and then Hyper Voice hits everything else really hard, even though I don't have that much special attack. Pixel's just busted in this gen. Also, it hits through Substitute, which is important if my opponent decides to bring something like Subglare Leech Seed Superior. Hyper Voice will just hit through the sub, do like 70%. Heal Bell is to stop status spam from things like Rotomosh doing T-Wave or Will-O-Wisp, Superior's Glare, Cobalion's T-Wave, etc. And then Roost for longevity. And then the central win condition for this team, or the ideal win condition, as I put it in my notes, is a Choice Scarf Entei. This allows speed everything on my opponent's team, and it can sweep everything with not that much chip. Like just a couple rounds of rocks, and most things will just die to Flare Blitz or Sacred Fire. It can be an early game breaker with Sacred Fire or Burn Spreader, because its HP doesn't matter on this game. My opponent doesn't have that much priority. Iron Head does do slightly more to Mega Gardevoir if I need it in a pinch, and then Extreme Speed was for if I got knocked, I'm pretty sure. I don't really remember. I never clicked Extreme Speed. It's just there. So yeah, in the ideal world, I chip Rotom with Greninja or Excadrill or Rocks or Burn or really anything, and then I click Flare Blitz, and then I win. And that's how all my mocks went. I absolutely smoked every mock I played because Flare Blitz is just so good in my opponent's team. So yeah, that's my team for my first game. Okay, so this is my first game. Yeah, okay. So turn 1, I see Cobalion. That means I'm always going to Thunder Wave turn 1. I'm Mental Herb, so it can't taunt me. So I can T-Wave, and then I can Rock Up, and then I can U-turn, and I'm happy. So here we see Cobalion get paralyzed, which is kind of annoying, because I was probably going to click Volt Switch, or I was going to click Toxic, and now I don't know which one I was going to click. So now I have the fast U-turn, and I don't know what this is about to do. So I go to Jellicent. In hindsight, maybe I could have gone to Excadrill, but if it clicked Close Combat, then I was just throwing away my Excadrill for free. It misses Toxic, which is lucky for me. And then I click Hex on the Toxic. So Cobalion is already chipped enough for Entei to kill it, which is good. Here I make kind of a bot play. I guess like my matchup is so good into this guy that I just decide to play super safe. I double Hex. I don't think there's any reason for me not or to Hex because Cobalion can't do anything to this. I could recover, I could Toxic, I could even Scald to try and fish for a burn on the switch out. So they go Serp. It reveals itself to not be lefties, which is interesting. And then they sub as I switch to Uxie. I switch to Uxie here because if it is Subseed, I get a slow U-turn with Uxie out to Mega Altaria, like so. And that doesn't break the sub, but it doesn't matter because I have Hyper Voice, and Hyper Voice will kill this thing. So here I probably decide to move too fast, and I go straight for Hyper Voice. And I kill the Superior, but now my Mega Altaria is glared, and my opponent is going to go to Mega Gardevoir and basically kill something. And I make the stupidest play of all time here, because I still really need Jellicent. It's great to stop Rotom from Hydro Pumping everywhere. It's good to spread burns with Will-O-Wisp. It's such an important piece, and Uxie has already done its job. It's not going to get another T-Wave off. It's not going to get a Toxic off. There's no removal on my opponent's team. So it's basically just a U-turn bot at this point. So of course I decide to sacrifice my Jellicent for fun. Um, Probably one of the worst plays of all time. Except it gets worse because I realize, oh shit, that was a stupid idea. So I switched to Excadrill on the Hyper Voice, knowing that I wouldn't die to Hyper Voice into like, I don't know, man. I just switched to Excadrill. It's not like I'm bluffing Scarf because I'm Balloon. So I get my Balloon Burst for fun, and I go for Iron Head, and I do like 5% to this Dust Noir, which is not pressure for some reason. And then I just end up sacking Jellicent anyway. So I lost my Balloon for fun, pretty much is what I'm trying to say. And then my opponent sacks Kabali here, and I think I make a misplay here by not scouting for Custap Berry. Like if this was Custap close combat, my Greninja was cooked. But it ends up being fine. It's not Custap. I just kill it. No problem. On this I hard switch, even though I have U-turn. Yeah, I don't know about that play. Actually, it might have mattered. We're gonna see later in the game, but whatever. Instead of U-turning, I guess I'm scared of Scarf, but if it's Scarf, that just means that Entei does damage to it, like a lot of damage to it. So I should not be worried of Scarf. I should always just U-turn there, because I don't really care about Greninja. I could even just go for Dark Pulses there. My opponent goes for Volt Switch. And then you go back to Gardevoir, and basically they claim another kill here. And I decide that my Mega Altaria is the kill fodder, which I think is fair. Like, I don't know, Uxie's just not Uxie's just not that useful here. And I go Excadrill. I'm doing the same song and dance here where I'm like, I'm gonna Iron Head you. I'm pretty sure Earthquake would have killed at this point. Oh yeah, this time I scout for the Custap Berry for some reason, but I didn't the last time. But you know, I'm just goated like that. So I click Toxic a bunch here. I probably should have U-turned on the second one because it was obviously gonna be like Pain Split. So now I'm just losing my Uxie that I should have lost on like turn 4 to be clear. But this is not how I wanted to lose my Uxie. I could have used it to like take a hit from Mega Gardevoir, Toxic Rotom, whatever, it's fine. So now I can go Excadrill, I claim my kill. Now my opponent goes Nidoking, which is a really interesting play because as we're about to learn, it's not Shuka Berry, and it's not very bulky. If my... we're just... So, Nidoking lives on 3%, and my Excadrill has 4 attack EVs. If my Excadrill had a couple more EVs or was adamant, which maybe my opponent had all the calcs ready, but I don't think they did because they weren't losing any timer. But if I was a little bit stronger, I would have just killed the Nidoking. I would have had my drill, and this game would be done. But that's not how that goes. So now I go Greninja, and I Dark Pulse, and here comes the Rotom, which this time I just go for Dark Pulse because I need to flinch it pretty much, or I need it to not be T-Wave. Of course it's T-Wave, and it's also Protect, so we're gonna see some shenanigans ensue where my Greninja lives this Volt Switch, which means the Rotom is 0 attack, which is important to note because that means that Entei will always live Hydro Pump if rocks are off the field, and if rocks are on the field, it will 6% of the time. Of course, I didn't spin away the rocks because why would I think about spinning away the rocks? Fucking idiot. So now pretty much what I gotta hope for is my opponent goes for the full para as they should, but they don't, so they just kill Gren here. So now obviously I'm faster. What I need to hope for is I need to hit this Sacred Fire, and then when Rotom comes in, it's gonna protect first. And then I have to hit the Sacred Fire, and I have to burn, and then I have to dodge the Hydro Pump, or it has to not kill. but it hits, it kills. I don't even burn, so it didn't matter unless they missed like 17 hydro pumps in a row. So yeah, that's how I lost the easiest match of all time, like a complete noob, because I sacrificed the thing that I needed on like turn 6, like a fucking idiot. But anyways, I play better in the next games. I promise. Okay, so this is my second game of pools. I'm currently down 0-1, which means if I lose another game of the next two, I am out of the tournament. So I gotta lock in. And unfortunately for me, this is the worst matchup of all time. Like, offensive Manaphy is so fucking good into my team. Defensive Latias destroys my hazards with ease. Excator is really good into my own team. As like, I'm basically expecting like a pretty hard offense build with an Arcanine in the back to stop Entei. Because if I bring Entei, I destroy this team. Unless the Arcanine is here. Other things I'm worried about, or I'm expecting all the top four, Arcanine and then Water of Choice, either Manaphy or Mantine. But I'm expecting Manaphy more because it's really good offensively into me. So this is the team that I decide to bring. I have a lead Togekiss, with Air Slash for everyone, Aura Sphere, for Tyranitar Thunder Wave because Thunder Wave is broken, and Trick just in case. It's like Tail Glow Manaphy, and I feel comfortable enough into the Megalopony later in the game. I have a return EQ Roost Toxic Mega Altaria. This is to... I forget what this is for. I'm not gonna lie. Anyways, it's supposed to click Toxic and then click Earthquake on the Arcanine, I'm pretty sure, and return just hits everything hard. Here's an Expert Belt Greninja, because Greninja fucking sucks unless you boost its damage. This thing has enough speed for... Latios, I'm pretty sure. And this thing is just creeping itself. This thing is faster than max speed Megalopony. Dark Pulse, good all around damage. Scald, you know, dual stabs. Low Kick will kill a 0-0 Tyranitar, or even some with bulk after rocks. And then Haze is in case of offensive Tail Glow Manaphy. There are situations where I can click Haze to stop the Tail Glow and then I can revenge it. Shuka Berry Drapion, it's there to get up T-Spikes, it's there to knock an item. It'll hit the Tyranitar. It's faster than Adamant Excadrill outside of Sand, assuming it's Sand Rush. And then I have Pursuit. I don't think I ever clicked it, but I have Pursuit. And it's Shuka Berry, so it can live in EQ. Yeah, it never came up. I have Air Balloon, Sandrush, Max Speed Excadrill, just because of the opposing Excadrill, and Sandrush was really scary. I just have Dual Spin Rocks, which is basically just the same set that I brought against my last opponent, except this time it's much more offensive. And then I have a Spadef Rocky Helmet Uxie, which can give me good chip on mostly Megalopony. It's a good rocker, good T-Waver, Heal Bell support for Toxic or Thunder Waves from Latias. U-Turn is always a good move because it's U-Turn. Heal Bell, yeah, it's basically the same Uxie set. Maybe I should have had Heal Bell on Uxie the first week. Whatever, doesn't matter. So yeah, that's my team for week 2. I was not confident in this matchup at all. But basically my plan was to hacks my opponent, because I'm a good player and that's how good players win. So yeah, let's see how that went. Okay, so this is my second game. And as I said in the builder, I was expecting like a more offensive structure with Excatar, offensive Manaphy, and Megalopony. Probably defensive Latias with like Defog and then Arcanine in order to stop any Entei shenanigans. Um, and obviously, when I load in this game, I see there's an Amoonguss and a Mantine on my screen, and I'm completely flabbergasted. Thankfully, it doesn't really change my lead plan that much. I see Lopunny, so turn one, I'm always going to Air Slash. Um, because either they're gonna Terra and fake, not Terra, Mega and fake out, or they're gonna Mega and attack, or they're gonna Mega and taunt. So Air Slashing here is always free because it won't lock me into the move that I click, which was Air Slash. Now on this turn, I have a free Thunder Wave. Because Mega Lopunny has Scrappy, base Lopunny is Limber, which is why you can't do that. And here my opponent uses their Tyranitar. And I'm not gonna lie, it gets paralyzed like 4 times here. I think only 3. so, so that's, yeah, I'm not a good guy for that. But yeah, I do some big chip to T-Tar. I guess my opponent decided that they really wanted the sand chip on Drapion, or they just didn't want to get knocked on a Moongus. Honestly, I don't really understand. And the way that they threw away T-Tar kind of makes it seem like it is, in fact, not a Sand Excadrill, which we're going to find out if that's true very soon. This Rocky Helmet chip on Lopunny means that Air Slash will always kill it if it's not bulky, which is important. So now I can get a free Rocks here, or I can go for T-Wave like a bot. I don't need to T-Wave here. There's no reason for me to T-Wave here. I should always go for Rocks or go for U-Turn. T-Waving there is a fucking noob move. So now I have to hard switch into Excadrill because my Uxie is pretty slow. This Excadrill could be offensive. It could be support because it is Mold Breaker. It is not Sand Rush or Sand Force. It's just a defensive Excadrill with Toxic, which is not something I expected at all. So now I go to my Excadrill, I pop my Rocks up into Mantine. Mantine can defog on my team forever pretty much. So I go to Altaria to get my Mega off, and I click return, and it does about 18% to this Amoonguss without the crit. So I have to sleep sack my Drapion, which is fine. Drapion's not supposed to be alive anyways. It's just what happens when you para your opponent, I guess. So here, I don't go for T-Wave like a noob. I go for U-Turn. I get Greninja in. In here, I double, because this is a support drill. It could live my Scald, and I don't want to get hit by something like a Brick Break or even an Earthquake. So that was good on me to U-Turn. Oh, I just double switched. I didn't even... What? Why did I U-Turn? It's obviously not fucking Scarf. Whatever. Shut up. This Brick Break chip on the Excadrill is really good because shipping Excadrill is good for killing it. And it means that it's closer to being in Dark Pulse range from Greninja, so I don't have to go like, oh, will I Dark Pulse or will I Scald? And then Mantine is Water Absorb. Here I pop my Rocks up, and now I get to T-Wave this thing if it wants to go for a Defog, which it doesn't. It wants to go for a Toxic, and it misses. I got lucky. And I show that I have Heal Bell anyways. That was to cure the sleep on my Drapion. Then my opponent gets full parried. Then I U-turn out into Drapion. So now I can set up a T-Spike, but more ideally, I get a free knockoff here. So I knock off Amoonguss' Sludge, which is very good because now it's not chip healing as much. I sleep sack Drapion again in order to get the T-Spikes. The T-Spikes basically just means that my opponent cannot go into Manaphy unless it's Lum. And they probably don't want to go into Lopunny. Yeah. It's trying to force Mantine in as much as possible so that I can start to wear it down. Here comes Excadrill. I stay in for the extra chip on the helmet. Yeah. and I'm fine if Yuxi goes down at this point. So I get the extra helmet chip. Now I can go Gren. Dark Pulse still isn't killing, I'm pretty sure. It's really close, but not quite. So I do go for Scald here. They go into Mantine. I Dark Pulse the Mantine, but basically my job here is to para-flinch it now. Because I didn't expect Mantine to come. So I Dark Pulse, it does 20%, which is real bad. They get a sub up, so that's even worse. And then I Dark Pulse again, and they get full parried. Which is really lucky, because that means my opponent did not get to click Toxic that turn, or Roost, or Defog. So now what I can do is I can hard switch to Yuxi instead of click... Oh, I didn't have U-turn. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I forgot my set. That's my bad. Now I hard switch to Yuxi, and if you notice my timer, I'm really low on timer, so I'm kind of having to map these sequences out really quick. But I noticed that that Dark Pulse into U-turn will break the sub from Mantine, which means that I can go Altaria. And what this will do, this will force Amoonguss in because this is their Altaria switch, which gives me a double to Excadrill, which means I can get up rocks to chip Mantine, and I can get some chip on Amoonguss, which is really nice because Amoonguss is fucking annoying. Here, I make a boss call, and I stay in an Iron Head as my opponent goes for Sludge Bomb. And then I go Togekiss. I don't go Togekiss after popping up my rocks because I didn't want to risk a Sludge Bomb. I noticed in that my opponent's other game, they did bring an offensive Amoonguss, so it was kind of in the back of my mind. And I saw that they kind of played a bit aggressively. And I have been playing really aggressively, so it's not like... It's not unreal for me to go Togekiss there, and then if they Sludge Bomb Togekiss, I'd basically just lose. So here I make the boss call, and I go to Togekiss to get a free Air Slash, and I miss. Which is pretty sad, but like I've been hacking the shit out of my opponent anyways. Now I basically just have to make the calls on what my opponent will do. Here I call, okay, you're gonna Iron Head, so I'm gonna go Gren, and I believe this means I get a free Dark Pulse, because Dark Pulse was killing Excadrill at this point, after that little bit of chip. So now it's either I Dark Pulse Paraflinch Mantine and I keep rocks up, or Mantine breaks through and it defogs, or it not roosts, or it toxics. And I flinch them on that one, and then on this one, they get the defog off, which is not that big of a deal, because I can pop rocks up still with my Excadrill. But now Mantine's dead, which is really good, because it's really stopping a lot of my offense from Greninja and then Togekiss. I sack Yuxi, get some more helmet chip. It's more for the sack than anything else. Now I get my Air Slash off for real this time, and we see that this is 22%. So Excadrill is not quite in range yet, so I'm going to have to make the call again, go to Greninja, and I force this thing out, and I just click Dark Pulse. It's good chip on Manaphy. I see that it's lefties. I see that it's decently bulky. They just go for Surf, take me out. And now I go Altaria, and I make the exact same double. We also learn here that Manaphy is faster than Altaria, which is fair because it's not a very fast Altaria. But here what I do is I get good chip on Amoonguss, which is important for Air Slash endgame, which is my ideal endgame, and really the only one I have at this point in the game. And I live these two Giga Drains, and I sack Excadrill to get up my rocks. So these rocks are important because earlier, as we saw, Excadrill took 22% from Air Slash from Togekiss. Now, after rocks, Excadrill will be in range of Air Slash, and I'm Scarf, so I'm faster. So now what happens is I click Air Slash a bunch, and basically I have to not miss. Oh, and here, just to... Technically, I think my opponent still could have won at this point if they went for like fake out cycles. Like if they did fake out switch. But here I sacrifice Drapion because it's sleeping. I don't need it anymore. My opponent shows their set, which is a fake out pup last resort, which is the set that their opponent brought to them, which I mentioned because I watched their game right before this one. So now I have to air slash. I just have to hope that I hit my air slashes. And I hit this last air slash, flinch for good measure. It didn't matter because return or earthquake would have killed Amoonguss. And then I win my second game through mostly luck, but I made all the aggressive plays that I had to. Um, yeah, I then apologized to my opponent, and they were cool about it. I don't like trying to win by hacks, but like I kind of felt like I had to. It was just so cooked. But anyways, yeah, that was my second game. I'm 1-1 now, which means my third game will determine whether or not I make playoffs or bracket, whatever the fuck they call it. Okay, this is the matchup for my third and final game of ORAS 4 pools. If I win this, I make it into the playoff bracket, or the bracket. I don't know what they call it in Smoke On, but if I win, I make it into the bracket. If I lose, I kill myself because I lost the easiest matchup of all time, and that's why I got eliminated. I feel like my matchup into this team is pretty good on paper. Um, Things to watch out for. Latios. It's it can be scary. Um, yeah, it can be scary. Nidoking, as always, is scary. Um, Scizor could be choice banned. It's probably gonna be choice banned because it can revenge Mega Altaria. Rotom Wash is probably going to be max Fizz Def because that's what Rotom Wash does into my team. I don't think Floatzel's going to come because I have a whole Jellicent, and Jellicent owns Floatzel. And then Florges can realistically come. It can be a Cleric, it can be Scarf, and then Gligar can come because it's really good at stopping my physical offense. So this is the team that I decided to bring. I'm starting with another lead Yuxi because Yuxi is just an insane lead. It's so fucking bulky. So here, I'm running Psychic because with minimal chip on things like Nidoking, Scizor, I can I can sweep this team with spoiler alert, DD Mega Altaria. So Psychic is in order to get those guaranteed kills onto Nidoking. Thunderwave is broken, as always. Stealth Rock is broken, as always. U-Turn is pivoting, as always. This spread is just super tanky. It lives like everything on the planet. I think it can even live 2 hits from Nidoking, get its Citrus Berry, and then Psychic it for good ship. AV Excadrill is my response to Latios. This thing is a wonderful switch and it takes 30% from Specs Draco. Surf does a little bit more, but I have a Jellicent if they surf. Brick Break is just in case there's screens on the Latios. Rapid Spin is good for hazards. There's T-Spikes and rocks in this game. Very annoying. Similar Scarf Togekiss to last game. Air Slash outspeeds Mega Lopunny. Flamethrower hits Scizor. Defog can get rid of hazards in a pinch. Heal Bell also allows me to do some last minute cleric support if I need it. I didn't really need any other attacks, so I decided Defog and Heal Bell were the move. The other consideration was Hidden Power Ice, because as you can see, I don't have my Greninja into this team, and I don't have Drapion to knock. So Gligar actually becomes a pretty big issue for my team, and I was texting my friend about this like a lot, like, oh shit, I'm so scared of Gligar, I'm gonna get swept by Gligar, which is not something you say often, especially when you have a Greninja on your team. And for the record, Greninja is good here, I just didn't feel like bringing it for the kind of build I wanted to do. I have Citrus Berry, 2 fire moves, Toxic, Entei. So what this can do is it baits in Rotom, hits it with the Toxic or with the Sacred Fire Burn. It can clean up in endgames with extreme speed. It can actually kill Nidoking if it's no bulk with a little bit of chip with a Flare Blitz, which is kind of crazy, but the main thing is getting the chip on the Nidoking so that my Altaria can beat it. Or Okoit, rather, at +1. We have Max Vizdef, Rocky Helmet Jellicent. This is it takes on Floatzel, just in case it comes for whatever reason. It's good chip on Mega Lopunny, and just like the last game, Air Slash will always kill no bulk Mega Lopunny after Helmet Chip. Toxic was for primarily Floatzel, but it can also hit switch in Shadow Ball. My opponent's team actually doesn't have a good Ghost Switch in besides Mega Lopunny, which doesn't want to get scalded, and then Recover is just a good move. And lastly, we have the set that created my Mega Altaria in the first place, which is Return, Dragon Dance, Cotton Guard, Roost. With only one attack, this Altaria can sweep basically my opponent's entire team, with Nidoking as the only exception. So all I have to do is get good chip on Nidoking, and I have to get to +1 with the DD, which is not that difficult to do, because Mega Altaria is super bulky. Cotton Guard is there because my opponent they have Scizor, they have Mega Lopunny with Fake Out, Quick Attack, all that stuff. So Cotton Guard is actually really good because my opponent's team is mostly physical in terms of its breaking power and especially its priority. So if I can get a Cotton Guard off, I can become almost unkillable. And then Roost is for longevity. There were some endgames where Choice Band Bullet Punch could actually do a decent bit even with a Cotton Guard. So I did need a Roost, just in case it came down to it. So yeah, that's my team for my third and final game of pools. Okay, so this is my last game of pools in ORAV IV. If I win, I make it to the bracket. If I lose, I should kill myself. So yeah, this is about what I expected to see in terms of the 6. I'm extremely scared of Gligar because I didn't bring Greninja and I really can't hit it that well outside of like Scald. So we're gonna see how that goes. Gligar leads, which is not that surprising. I just get up my rocks here. They Toxic me, Womp Womp. I find out I'm faster, so I get a fast U-turn, and I just go Jellicent. As they slow U-turn out to... Oh yeah, I got some Helmet Chip there, that's very nice. Out to Scizor, so I'm expecting Scizor to be Choice Band. Because it's a good revenge kill into Mega Altaria. And I can actually make this play here, where I just recover. I will always live Adamant Band Knockoff. So that's what I do, and this is in fact Adamant Band. So that hurts like a whole lot, and I actually die to this half the time, so I have to switch out. I go Entei, which is not the best switch into knockoff, but it's like I don't really have one. And I play a little bit aggressive because I like chip on Rotom for my desired endgame, which is DD Mega Altaria. So I get a Toxic off, predicting a Volt Switch. I will always live Hydro if this is a 0 special attack, which is important to note. So it's not like this was the most aggressive play of all time and I lost immediately if they Hydroed. But I get a bunch of chip, or I get Toxic on Rotom, that's not a bunch of chip. Here comes Latios, which ends up showing lefties, which is really interesting because that means it's a support Latios. So it could be like T-Wave, Defog, Roost. I don't know what attack it has. It just goes for T-Wave here, that's fair. And then it defogs, so I go for an Iron Head, do 38, which means it's really physically bulky. Not full phys bulk, I'm pretty sure. My opponent makes a move there and goes for T-Wave, even though I'm clearly very willing to just hit them. I guess they live in EQ anyways, so like it's probably fine from their end. It just kind of caught me off guard. So now my Jellicin's paralyzed, which is kind of sad. Because now I'm playing with full paras. So I stay in here. I believe I click recover just to scout what the scissor goes for. This thing can't touch me. If it does go for anything, it's gonna go for a Volt Switch, except it goes for a Will-O-Wisp, which is, in my opinion, an extremely aggressive play. So I kind of keep that in my mind, because Will-O-Wisp was like on the later end of what I was expecting there, but I guess I haven't shown any attacks. My opponent doesn't know if I'm Shadow Ball or not, so I probably should have just stayed in and clicked Shadow Ball there, in all honesty. But I get lucky, I dodge the Will-O-Wisp. I have Heal Bell anyways, so it's not like I'm particularly moved about that. But here, I make a total noob play and I Earthquake. So I Earthquake here because I was like, maybe my opponent doesn't know what Mold Breaker does. Because they stated on the Excadrill before. I just completely disrespect my opponent and I don't go for Iron Head, even though Iron Head was definitely the better play there. So my opponent reveals EQ, which means they're Toxic, U-turn, EQ, and probably Roost Last. Here I go for a U-turn into Jellicin, even though my opponent is obviously going to U-turn. I don't know why I didn't rock up there, but, you know. Here, I just go for a Scald on Nidoking because this chip allows me to kill it with +1 return with Mega Altaria, which is one of the, this is one of the main stopping points for the Mega Altaria sweep. So I get my chip, I'm very happy. I recover here just to play it safe. And then here, my opponent goes for Volt Switch, and I click full para. I think I clicked recover there. So now I have to switch to Yuxi, who is super Spit F. And I click Shadow Ball, which is insane. And it does like basically no damage because Yuxi is insane. And I pop my rocks up here because 1, it allows me to see what the Scizor locks into. 2, it allows me to see the Scizor speed tier because my Yuxi is not very fast. And 3, rocks are rocks. Next I go Togekiss. I'm threatening both Air Slash and Flamethrower. And I believe I just go for Heal Bell. Yep, because that will fix my para. Yeah, it'll fix my para. And then I can just go Exca. This thing can't do anything to Exca. It can T-Wave. It can, yeah, it shows Surf, which is 36. So now my opponent's kind of just roost stalling, and I really don't want to allow Gligar in for free again. So I throw in a couple of Iron Heads here. I should probably just spam Earthquake, but I don't want my opponent to go Gligar for free again. Which, I mean, as we see here, it just allows my opponent to get a bunch of damage on Excadrill. But now I basically have a free Jellicin switch, which means I get a recover, assuming that I don't get full parried by this T-Wave. Which I don't. Very good. So now my opponent has to switch. And I click Scald. Just to make sure that my opponent doesn't get a little bit crazy, go straight to Scizor. I definitely should have not Hydro Pump, but Shadow Balled by now. And I think I do on some of these turns, but I just get full parried. Trying to stop the Volt Switch. My opponent really doesn't want me going to Excadrill. So here I think on this turn I really should have gone for Shadow Ball. But I don't. I do go for Recover on that one, I think. Or no, I do go for Shadow Ball. I go for Shadow Ball and then I get full parried, which is sad. Entei Citrus Berry comes in clutch because it means that I live that with ease. And now I click Flare Blitz, which does 34 to Latios. I thought it did 32. but I guess not. I'm pretty sure it was a roll anyways to kill, and also, yeah, I didn't want to risk that get parried, though I guess I could have heal belled. So that probably was a misplay for me. I swear to God it said 32, but I guess I'm stupid, which is already well known based on how I play. Here my opponent goes straight to Scizor, and I get full parried on the recover, and then my Jellicent dies. That crit did not matter whatsoever. And I sit here for a little bit like, okay, because I'm really not feeling confident at this point. Like, I haven't gotten much chip on Gligar. Rotom has a good bit of chip, but the Scizor is really a problem. This defensive Latios is really starting to be a problem. My Excadrill is really taking a lot of damage. So I just take some time here, and I kind of try to reset. And my opponent is very nice. They turn the timer off, or they let me turn the timer off. Which probably ended up backfiring, because it just made me overthink a bunch of turns. Like, I just kind of overthought a bunch of things, but it's fine. Here, I go for the spin to get off the rocks to make my Togekiss better. And I just sack Excadrill to Surf because I don't have a Surf Swift, or I don't have a switch into this anymore. Here, I go Togekiss, and my plan is to Air Slash Flinch. This works out kind of fine because if you go for T-Wave, I do have Heal Bell. Or I can just Air Slash everything to death, get the chip that I need for Mega Altaria to win, who has not come out yet all game. So yeah, I do get 2 lucky Air Slash Flinches there onto the Rotom. And then my opponent goes Scizor. The click here is always going to be Bullet Punch. But for some reason, I need like 5 minutes just to make sure that that I should go Entei, even though I should so obviously go Entei. So I do go Entei. And I actually live the Bullet Punch, which is only a 12.5%. It doesn't end up mattering, but I just thought it was interesting. I do big 15. Now I go to Altaria, and I get a free Cotton Guard up. And my opponent realizes right about now, oh shit. So they go to Gligar, and I double Cotton Guard just in case they T-Wave. Which my opponent's not a buffoon, so they don't T-Wave, they Tox. But that allows me to go into Togekiss, and now I can play Air Slash games. So the first one crits and doesn't flinch. Now the second one hits, doesn't flinch. The third one hits, flinches. And then my opponent decides to sack Scizor. Now my Togekiss goes down. I always go Altaria here. And my opponent goes Gligar. So this does a couple things. This prevents me from DDing. Actually, I think that's really all it does. It just makes sure that I return here. But I think they could have gotten a similar... Maybe they thought I was slow, but they were also really slow. I don't know, punishing DD is good. I guess they didn't know that I was Roost. No, they were already playing as if I wasn't Roost anyways. I don't know, by this point my opponent's kind of boned. Because I am Dragon Dance. So even if this thing goes for like... If it Megas, clicks Fake Out, and then hits me with Return, and then hits me with Quick Attack, like... They weren't Fake Out anyways. So I just get to +1. I'm faster than any Lopunny. And I know I'm faster than this Latios. And I win 1-0 with my Cotton Guard Dragon Dance Altaria. That did not go to plan. And I almost got swept by Gligar. Because I thought it was a wonderful idea to click Earthquake back on turn 20 like a fucking bot. But that's besides the point. I somehow made it out of pools, even though I did not deserve it. I did not play good in the first game. I played pretty good in the second game, but my matchup sucked, and I got really lucky. And then I played, like, alright in the third game. I definitely could have played a lot better. I also played this game like an hour ago, so it's still pretty fresh in my mind. But yeah, I made it out of pools, which is not what I expected after I lost my first game. But I'm happy with it. So I'm gonna win the whole tournament now by spamming Togekiss Air Slash.